People have been asking the question, what is truth, for thousands of years. For some, it's just an interesting thing to ponder, while other folks haven't even given it a moment's thought. The thing is, finding truth, understanding it, and applying it to your life with wisdom is huge and will go a long way towards a contented and successful life. Pilate asked Jesus the question at his trial. Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" And when he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said to them, "I find no fault in him at all." As a result of seeking the answer to that question, there are a bunch of silly ideas out there about truth. One of the most common wacky concepts is that truth is a matter of perspective. That way of thinking believes that something can be truth for you, but not truth for me. And that was the implication of Pilate's question to Jesus. The confusion here, I think, is between facts and truth. Facts often do vary by perspective. This is why it's not unusual for various witnesses in trials to give conflicting testimonies in a court of law, but still be honestly and accurately describing the same events to the best of their abilities. Assuming that none of the witnesses are lying, there is an underlying true chain of events which can deconflict those apparent inconsistencies. The true version of what actually happened is true regardless of how it was perceived by the people who are present. It's this misdirection of perception that enables magicians to do their tricks. Invariably, the facts we perceive are not what magicians are really doing. And it's this apparent confusion of facts that makes the procedural crime drama such an enduringly popular form of entertainment. But the facts we see with our faulty perceptions don't change what is true. Truth trumps facts. One of the reasons people latch on to the idea of truth being relative, what's true for you may not be true for me, is that it's easier than believing that truth is absolute. When we believe that truth is relative, we can be lazy and just believe whatever comes into our mind without making the effort to discern whether it is in fact true. The understanding that truth is relative also gives some people license to hold on to ideas that are patently false and present them on the same level with the same authority as ideas that are actually true. And not only that, but this false concept of a relative truth is often perceived as nicer because it removes potential conflict between ideas. Rather than people taking a stand on truth, they can simply dismiss the conflict altogether. Well, that's true for you, but it's not true for me. But that's a load of nonsense. The whole line of relative truth thoughts stems from a narcissistic inward searching for answers. The trouble is, on our own, we're fundamentally flawed, so looking inward ultimately doesn't work. One of the things I learned in my navigation training, both in merchant ships and military jets, is that in order to figure out exactly where you are, you need to look to external fixed reference points. There's two parts to that. First, your navigation reference points must be external. When people start looking inward for answers, they end up relying wholly on their own mind, will, and emotions. Trying to correct your course to get where you want to go based on an internal reference point is like trying to figure out your ship's position by looking at the foremast. I'm doing pretty good. The mast is still in the front part of the ship. It won't work because the front part of the ship may very well be headed straight towards the rocks. The second thing needed to navigate successfully is to ensure that the reference points that you're using are fixed and not moving. If you try to take a bearing off of something that isn't where you think it is, then you'll fix your position wrong on the chart. And that means that you'll apply the wrong course to get where you want to go, with potentially very bad results. That's why lighthouses blink in specific patterns, so that you can tell them apart and know for sure which one you see, then be sure of its actual position to use it as a reference. And it's also why the whole concept of relative truth is nonsense. Truth simply is. Anything that isn't true, by definition, is false. Just like no one can be sort of pregnant, things can't be sort of true. Sure, a statement can have bits and pieces of truth mixed in with untruths, and that's where things get especially dangerous because untruths contaminate everything they come in contact with. Jesus and Paul compared that blending of truth with untruth to yeast. A little bit affects the entire batch of dough. Whatever doesn't line up with truth, by definition, is not truth. It's a binary thing. Truth is true whether I believe it or not. Truth is true before I believe it. Truth is even true if I refuse to agree with it or acknowledge it. Truth does not need me to make it true. The trouble comes in when people try to draw conclusions with incomplete information. Because it can be challenging at times to get to the underlying truth, many people take the easy way out and choose to believe that truth is relative and that we all have different truths. As a follower of Jesus, obviously, I believe that truth is found in the pages of the Bible. When I was searching for truth, I did a reasonably thorough investigation, and that's where the evidence took me. Over the years, I've seen the evidence continue to pile up, which reinforces my belief. The Bible is that external fixed reference point that I use to guide my life. Now, you can say I'm off my nut. You could argue that the Bible is nonsense and truth is found somewhere else. But please, don't be intellectually dishonest and say that it's true for me, but not true for you. Either it's true or it's not true for both of us.